Welcome back to Inside the Heat. South Florida's NBA fans had grown in number and grown close to a core group of players they watched enter the league as rookies and then blossom into good players on a playoff team. But the era of innocence was about to end in Miami as the business of pro basketball brought big changes.
Coming off a season-ending playoffs loss to the Atlanta Hawks, the Miami Heat was ready to kick off a fresh new year. However, the Heat's 94-95 season began with a pair of shocking moves.
I think Louis Chaffel and Billy Cunningham felt at the time that with that particular team, the Heat they went as far as they could go.
On November 2nd, 1994, just 2 days before the season began, in a move that surprised many, the Heat traded center Ronnie Cycli to the Golden State Warriors.
Was something that I did not expect. You know, we've built that team, and that team has become so good.
The honeymoon was over. It was sort of a hard thing to accept. I mean, Cycli was our first pick in our history, and we'd watch him go through his growing pains, and we'd all been a part of that. And all of a sudden, just like that, he was gone.
When you had franchise-building players like Ronnie get traded, it was a personal thing. You know, it was like, wait, you didn't ask me. You know, I don't want Ronnie Cycli to go. He's a good guy. So I remember thinking, wow, you know, now it's serious.
Just 5 days after the Cycli trade, the Heat made another surprising move, trading Grant Long and Steve Smith to the Atlanta Hawks. The deal was made while the team was on the road, en route from Phoenix to Golden State.
Once we get on the plane, Kevin Lockery comes back and says, Grant Long and Steve Smith, can I see you? And right then I knew we had got traded.
And Steve and I get our luggage and we get off the plane. We're sitting on the tarmac on our luggage saying, okay, now what do we do from here?
And then to see that plane take off, I mean, it was just like you're losing your family. We were a very close-knit team back then. Steve Smith, Brian Shaw, Glenn Rice, Grant Long. We kind of grew up together. And that's why it was sad to see that team dismantled.
You're talking about cornerstones being traded. That weighs a lot on you. It affects the team.
Within a week to 10 days, no more Ronnie Cycli, no more Grant Long, and no more Steve Smith. This wasn't the same Heat team that we'd all grown used to and sort of grown in love with. 3
well-known and well-liked players were gone, and in their place came Kevin Willis, Sasha Danilovich, and Billy Owens. The new-look Heat were struggling. By the end of January, they were 14 games under 500 and lacked an identity.
We were losing with a lot of guys we barely knew, and it was sort of a dark, lost time for the Miami Heat.
There were more changes to come. The 2 men who had run the Heat since the franchise began were in the process of selling their interest in the team, throwing the Heat into a chasm of uncertainty.
The Heat was now a rudderless ship, and at our darkest hour came the biggest thing that ever happened to the Miami Heat.
Mickey Arison, the son of Heat patriarch Ted Arison, stepped forward to purchase the interests of Cunningham and Chaffel. It solidified the Arison family's control of the franchise, and Mickey became the team's managing general partner.
What happened was that my father moved back to Israel in the early 90s and turned over the investment in the Heat to me. And at that point, with Lou and Billy leaving, it was a team really without a basketball organization, and we were really starting from scratch.
At that moment, when Mickey took over the franchise, that's when the franchise was going to now take off.
It was then, during the NBA's All-Star break in Phoenix, as Harold Miner repeated as the slam dunk champion.
Oh, yes.
And Glenn Rice won the three-point shootout.
The heat wave up in here, y'all take note.
By winning these contests, it brought the kind of attention that we weren't used to. I think it was just a hint that our luck was about to change.
We really like to set a new tone, a new direction for the team. I met with a lot of potential GM candidates at the All-Star break in Phoenix.
He hires Dave Wohl as the general manager. Dave Wohl lets Kevin Lockery go, puts Alvin Gentry as the interim head coach.
Gentry finished coaching the remainder of the season, and Glenn Rice continued to be a steadfast for the team, scoring 56 points against the Orlando Magic and setting the franchise highest individual point total in a single game, a record that has stood for over a dozen years.
Here is Rice for three!
Everything changed, and even then you knew there was more to come.
Mickey was taking control, he was stepping up, and from the moment he did, things got better. From the very moment Mickey Arison became managing general partner, he was totally committed to making the Miami Heat a championship contending franchise. His eventual hiring of Pat Riley to run that franchise was the start of great things and big games that were just ahead for the Miami Heat. Thanks for watching this edition of Inside the Heat. I'm Eric Reed.